Hey, I'm Jolynn, and this is the Squatch Dog, our 2022 Winnebago Revel. You know, we absolutely love our Winnebago Revel, but we realized that we're gonna need a new ladder because the stock ladder is stored on the back, and we ended up putting a box back there. So we went to Backwoods Adventure Mods and ordered one of their side ladders. I'm going to install it myself, and we're gonna tell you what we think about it. So stick around. So when we opened the box, we realized that the ladder comes in 4 sections. There's a bottom section to the ladder, a top section to the ladder. There's also a lower bracket that actually screws into the pinch weld. Then we've got a top section that is Revel specific. It goes on to the roof rack. And then we also got a box full of bolts. So when you open up this bolt box, you're gonna find a whole bunch of bolts, of course, including these carriage bolts. These are 3/8 inch, 16 by 1 inch carriage bolts, complete with washers, locking washers, and nuts. You're also gonna find 2 of these U-bolts, complete with 4 rubber bushings, 4 washers, 4 nuts, and 2 rectangular brackets as well. Then you're also gonna find these powder-coated brackets. There's 2 of them. And then there is this smaller bag full of smaller bolts. You're gonna find 4 1/4 inch 20 by 1 carriage bolts and 4 1/4 inch 20 by 1 hex bolts, along with all the washers, the locking washers, and of course the nuts. So here's the tools you're gonna need. You're gonna need a wrench set, you're gonna need a socket set, and you're also gonna need a drill. So there is one problem that I did run into. I realized that because of the width of the ladder, it can only be located right here. It can't be located up there because it'll get in the way of the window when you open and close it. And it can't be located right there because it'll be in the way of the cassette toilet. Now, as a result, this piece sits on the roof rack up above. And I found that there's a bracket that's in the way for this to be able to set flush on the roof rack. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So the top of the ladder is going to have to go right here. But you can see that this brace is right here, and there's some bolts that are sticking out. So as a result, when I try to put this on the roof rack, I can't because those bolts are in the way. So as a result, I'm gonna have to take this bracket, loosen these bolts, and slide this whole thing over so that I can get this top on. Little extra steps. You may not have to do this. This bracket may not be in your way. If so, you're one of the lucky ones. So these are kind of tight, so I'm using a torque wrench to loosen these up. Now I'm gonna move this over. I'm gonna move it over here on the other side so it's just far away from my ladder. Move that up. And then I'm gonna tighten it back down. So right now I've got my ladder laid out. I'm going to assemble it loosely. I've got my bolts right here. I'm gonna put them in, but I'm not gonna tighten it up until I get it up on the vehicle. So I'm gonna put the carriage bolts through the holes. Then I'm gonna put the washers on them. Then the locking washers. And then the nuts, loosely. Next, these connector brackets are going to connect the top half of the ladder with the lower half of the ladder, just by lining it up with the 4 holes down here and putting in your bolts. Bolts loosely assembled on the ladder. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take this bottom bracket, and we've got some 1/4 inch carriage bolts that we're going to attach to the bottom of this, And then there's this area on the bottom of the van called a pinch weld that we'll be using the hex bolts to attach that with. So we're going to take the carriage bolt, put it in from behind so that it's easier to get a hold of. And then we're going to do that with all 4 of them. And then we're going to put our bottom bracket on. Then we're going to put a washer on and a lock washer. And a nut. All 4 of those. So welcome to the Pacific Northwest. Give it 10 minutes and you're probably going to see some rain. I brought my lovely assistant, Brad, with me to help me hang the ladder temporarily while I mark the bottom of the van so I can know where I'm going to be drilling. So that's the next step. So Brad is going to pull up on the ladder while I mark the holes on the pinch weld so I know where to drill. Pull up. I'm using a 1/4 inch bit. 1 hole down, 2 more to go. So now we have all 3 of our holes drilled. I've got some Rust-Oleum here. I'll rattle this can a little bit. And I'm going to spray some Rust-Oleum on this just to make sure that it doesn't rust on us. So now that we have the holes drilled and we have the Rust-Oleum sprayed on the holes so that they don't rust, we put the ladder back on, and now we're going to put this bracket behind it on the pinch weld and screw in these hex bolts to keep it secure. Here we go. Brad's gonna push up on the ladder while I do this. I put the clamp on the other side of the pinch weld and start putting in the bolts to bolt it all together. See, I told you, wait 10 minutes here in the Pacific Northwest and the weather's probably going to change. So we've got the bottom bracket attached to the pinch weld, and now our next step is to make sure that the ladder is straight. And fortunately, I've got this seam right here, so I'm just going to go from the bottom to the top and attach it there. So here's how I'm going to attach it to the roof rack. I'm going to take this U-bolt, stick it through on this side, and then I'm going to take this bracket, put it through, and because this U-bolt isn't threaded all the way through, we're going to take one of these bushings and put it on the top and bottom. And then put on the bolts. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Brackets screwed on lightly onto the roof rack. I'm going to straighten things out, and then I'm going to tighten everything down. I'm going to start from the top all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to tighten them all up. everything's tightened down, and I think this ladder is ready to climb. Oh yeah, this feels super sturdy, and there's plenty of room for my feet. Thank you so much, Backwoods Adventure Mods, for making this super easy to install. And if you like this video, or you'd like to see more videos like this, or if you'd like to take a look at some of the tours that we've done in the Squatch Dog, please feel free to like and subscribe to our channel. Meanwhile, happy trails!